had Julianne at 28 weeks, but I'm going to let you tell us more about it. How did you end up in the NICU with the
Okay, well, our journey started at 20 weeks when I went into the doctor just for a normal routine checkup to find out what we were having.
Mhm.
And I found out that my cervix was thinned out to 1/8 of what it should be.
Oh, oh, what does that mean in terms of having to deliver her early? Because usually when it comes out, it's pretty much going to go into labor, correct?
Right, I was having preterm labor, which they fortunately have medicines to help stop that now. But as far as cervix goes, I was put basically upside down in my doctor's office
Oh,
because they
wow.
told me they were trying to keep my baby in. And then I was sent to a different hospital to possibly get a cerclage, but we were too far thinned out to actually receive one. So I was just put on strict bed rest.
How did you end up going in at 28 weeks then? Were you still in the hospital, or they just said, "No, come in," or did
So I went
something trigger
home
that?
at 20, it was like 20 weeks and like 3 days. And I spent the next 5 weeks in, like at home, just on strict bed rest.
Hmm.
And then the next 4.5 weeks I spent in the hospital. I went in at 20, I believe 26 weeks, 25 weeks, something like that. I thought I had a bladder infection, and
Oh,
the doctor checked me, and I was dilated to 5.
oh, wow.
So, yeah,
I will tell you that your story has been different. Everybody's story has been different, but yours is very different from some of the other ladies.
yeah.
When that happened, I'm going to ask you two questions. I'm going to twist at you. When that happened and said, "Hey, we're going to have this little one at 28 weeks," are you okay with that, or did you want to stay in the hospital any longer?
Um, I was at that point, since we went in at 25 weeks, I was actually okay with 28 weeks. I was just happy that we made it as far as we did, and that I was allowed to get the steroid shots and some of the procedures needed to help her possibly be okay.
During the journey. How did you feel about her being in a NICU? What was your happy moment with her being in a NICU?
Um, I was somewhat frazzled. We hadn't had a preemie baby in our family that I know of ever, but I guess being in the hospital for 4 weeks, I had the time to meet all the doctors in the NICU and even some of the other parents that had babies in there that were, most of them were all bigger than my baby, but they had the NICU experience. So I was able to get to know people, and I was, I guess, comfortable with them taking care of her. And they'd taken such good care of us so far. I felt like, there's nothing else I can do, put it all in God's hands, and we just go with it. Be positive.
What was a low moment while you were in the NICU unit?
Um, Our low moments were definitely those times when, your doctor does their rounds, they come in and look at your baby and they say, okay, your baby has a heart defect, or your baby isn't gaining weight, or, all the negatives that they bring to you. But you have to find your way to push through it and be like, okay, she has this, but that's common in preemies. What can we do?
Does she still have to live with a heart defect, or how's her life now?
Her heart actually, it was the PDA that's very common in a lot of preemies and even some full-term babies, and hers actually ended up closing with once they gave her medicine, so we didn't have to have any heart surgeries or anything.
That's a win. That's a
Yes.
win. What do you consider one of your most precious memories? You like when you think of that moment in life, that's a dear moment, like that's an aha moment. I actually remember when my little one actually he looked over and smiled and I said, "He can't smile yet." I'm like, "He's smiling." I have a picture of it. And
Oh yeah.
so
Our nurses were always like that to us. They were like, your baby is always so happy, and she definitely smiles at us, and she is just, for a preemie baby, they're like, she is so pretty. Like normally preemie babies, like when she first was born, she just didn't look very, I don't know, she didn't look like a baby. But for me, the aha moment was to be able to hold her for the first time after a week, and then she grips your fingers, and you're like, she is a baby.
what is one of the major things you would say that if you had to tell parents, this is my number one advice for you, and this helped me in a journey, but and I think it'll help you, what would you tell them?
I would definitely say to trust your doctors, and if you don't, to don't Google. Definitely do not Google, but reach out to someone else who has been through it and to see what they did and what worked and what didn't work. Because if you don't trust them, and then if you do Google, you're just going to be freaked out, and then your NICU stay is going to be absolutely miserable. But for us, it was mainly just to stay positive. It's not a positive situation, but if you stay positive, it will help you out.
And I have one last question for you tonight, Erica.
Okay.
You had a lot of support, and it sounds like you had support from the nurses, it sounds like you had support from the doctors. When you look at your support system, what did you take from that? Like, did you have a parent that was super involved? Was your spouse super supportive? Or
Mine was actually totally opposite. We had very little support. We have an aunt that lives where we live, but everyone else was 2 hours away. But mine was being able to go to the NICU when I wanted to go because my husband worked for us. And when I saw those babies whose parents didn't get to stay and they had to go home, or the moms, that, I mean, it's a preemie baby and you can smell the smoke on them. They didn't have the care that they deserve. So I felt like I have everything I could possibly give her, and me being here for her and showing the support is all I can give her, and it's all I can do.
well, do you have any closing remarks or anything of the sort?
Um, I would just definitely to tell other people that are going through it, don't be afraid. It is a hard situation, and some people do lose their babies, but if you go into it in a negative aspect, it's not going to turn out good for you. You're going to stress, you're going to worry, and that does not help your baby. Your baby needs love.
Well, thank you so much for sharing with us. Look forward to talking to you soon. That's it for Parent to Parent. Y'all have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.
Bye.